I'm not going to call it a must win because the Panthers season doesn't end on Sunday if they lose, but it kind of feels like you probably need to win to try to get things back on track kind of game on Sunday. We'll talk about it right here on Locked On Panthers.
You are Locked On Panthers, your daily Carolina Panthers podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome into another edition of the Locked On Panthers podcast, a part of the Locked On Podcast Network. I'm your host, as always, Julian Council, talking Carolina Panthers with you every Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and yes, of course, Friday, your team every day. That's our motto here on the Locked On Podcast Network. Thanks for watching the show right here on YouTube and listening wherever you listen to your favorite podcast. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new customers can bet just $5, and if your bet wins, you'll get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. We're back again here on a Friday. The Panthers hosting the Atlanta Falcons in their Week 3 home opener on Sunday afternoon. And I'm not going to say it's a must win because, well, they still have 14 more games, even if they lose the game, win the game, or tie the game. But it really feels like the Panthers need to have this one to get not back on track, but to get on track this season. The injury report, Pat Jones II is going to be out on Sunday, which means big opportunity for Nick Scorton and for Princely Umanmielen. But on Fridays, I always provide you my 3 keys to victory. And let's go ahead and start off there by discussing those 3 keys. Key number 1. Wolf. That's my reaction to the Panthers have started off the season, not in the second half, but in the first half of their games down in Jacksonville and in the Valley of the Sun against the Arizona Cardinals. The Panthers are being outscored 40-6 in the first half of ball game so far this season, but in the second half, they're outscoring their opponents 26-13. Now, last week it was 19-6. Week 1, it was 7-0. It wasn't really a big thing week 1, but it is striking how poor of starts starting off to so far this season. And the big reason that has happened is because of the turnovers. From Bryce Young, the Panthers starting quarterback, they have 4 first half turnovers that have resulted into 20 points so far this season. 10 for Jacksonville in week 1, and then 10 last week for Arizona. It's pretty simple that if you turn the ball over and your opponents catch those into points, you're highly unlikely to win the game. Now, there are teams out there like Buffalo, who actually has not turned the ball over at all so far this season and scored 30 points in all those games as well. But Baltimore, Cincinnati, when Joe Burrow's healthy, Kansas City, a lot of times, the Eagles, like this team is not good enough to be able to overcome these turnovers, which is Exhibit A, Exhibit B. They played against Jacksonville in Arizona, and Arizona was a nice team last year. The Panthers knocked them out of the playoff contention, but they're going to be a team I think it actually could be right there in the wild card race this year. But it's not like you're facing the top of the NFL and you're still not competitive in these games. It was 27-3 last week until they finally had it click and they woke up and they started to play Panthers football. When you look at just offensive EPA in general, they have a minus 10.28 in the first quarter. They have a negative 9.64 in the second quarter. Then it gets progressively better once you get to the second half. It's a minus 3.62 in the third. And then finally a positive 16.78. They are so good on offense, apparently, in the fourth quarter. A lot of that is skewed by what happened last week than they are the previous 3 quarters, but atrocious in the first and not great in the second as well. And we were talking to Dave Canales here on Friday afternoon as he addressed media one final time heading into Sunday's matchup against Atlanta at home here in Charlotte. And he was just talking about wanting to get off to just executing, not necessarily a good start, just they want to execute. And it's one of those things where they don't want to really put a lot of pressure on the guys where, oh man, if we don't score in an opening drive, then can we have success? And even if they do score in an opening drive, that does not mean that they're going to go on there and score 40 points. That's a principle he told us that he took from Pete Carroll, not to make too much out of it, that you have to just focus on the execution and everybody doing their 111th. And I asked him just how involved Bryce Young is throughout the week in going over what plays he likes, what plays he doesn't like when it comes to the opening script. And he says he's very involved. This goes all the way to the beginning of the week up until Friday, Saturday, and then game day when they finally know what they want to do. And they have multiple walkthroughs where they go through this. So it's not like they're not prepared and the quarterback does not feel comfortable with it. They just aren't getting off to the right kind of starts. But they have to have the same attitude they had in the second half of the game last Sunday in Arizona, but it's also about execution. They're not executing. You even go to the opening drive against Jacksonville. I didn't hate it. I love the mixture of runs and passes. It's just Bryce on that throw to Hunter Renfrow. You got to get it to him. And he didn't. So that's him not executing his 111th. And if he does, Carolina, I think, ends up being in position to score, maybe score a touchdown, and maybe the season, at least to start off, is different than where it is right now with them sitting at 0-2 and just looking so bad in the first halves of these games. Number two, they got to slow down the Falcons pass rush. And of course, the offensive line is going to come into focus this week as Chandler Zavala and Cade May stepping in for Robert Hunt and Austin Court, respectively, at right guard and at center for not just this week, but for probably the long haul. Newsflash, even if they talked about there's a possibility that Robert Hunt will come back, he's not coming back from a torn biceps. That just rarely ever happens. And then Austin Corbett could be back at some point in time, but that will be pretty dependent upon how a guy like Cade Mays plays, and if they feel like they want to put Corbs in there over possibly a guy like Chandler Zavala, based on, of course, how he plays throughout the next couple of weeks, filling in for Robert Hunt. But the Falcons, an organization that annually has one of the worst pass rushes in the NFL, through 2 weeks, is actually looking pretty salty there and causing a lot of havoc. The Falcons right now are third in the NFL, according to PFF's pressure percentage of 46.3%. But their opponents have had the most time to throw. They're tied with Minnesota, by the way, in this 3.19 seconds to throw their opponents have had. And now the Vikings, with Brian Flores as their DC, they have blitzed a ton. And I think a lot of this is just flushing the quarterback out of the pocket. Now, when that quarterback gets out of the pocket, are they running for yardage? Are they just throwing the ball away? Are they finding guys open? Like, there's a bunch of different variables that play out to what they potentially are doing in these certain situations. And for Bryce Young, he is uniquely qualified to be able to pick up some yardage with his legs. We saw that in week 1 against Jackson. We saw that even last year in a lot of the games that he played well, and even games that he has not played well in as a Panther starter. He's been able to affect the game with his legs when he got out of the pocket. And some of that out of structure stuff is really what led Carolina to take him number 1 overall a couple of years ago. So can Bryce make Atlanta pay in those situations? But also, can the Panthers just block it up? And you look at what Atlanta's done so far this season. James Pierce Jr., he has been fantastic. Now, let me look this up live with you as I'm recording this to see if he's even going to play on Sunday, because he did not practice the other day. Let's see. It looks like he's back out there. So James Pierce Jr., him and Rook Ororo, edge and defensive tackle, respectively, those two guys are top 20 at their position when it comes to ESPN's pass rush win rate. So on the edge, Icky and Taylor are going to have to do their jobs. And then really they're in the interior of the offensive line, Cade Mays, who right now, limited sample size, is allowing PFF pressure percentage of 8.3%. Chandler Zavala is at 16.7%. So that is a big drop off from Robert Hunt, who did not allow pressure at all in a single pass rushing snap he's played so far this season. And then Austin Corbett was at 3.4%. I expect Mazes to be better, and as the ball as the season goes along, to also hopefully improve. Ike Ekwonu, just for reference, is at a 16.3% PFF pressure percentage allowed. Thanks to our friends over there at True Media for putting out those stats. So got to find a way to hold up there on the interior and also at the edge, and not allow Atlanta to build on the confidence from last week against Minnesota on Sunday Night Football. And then the last one is kind of a TBD on whether he's going to play, but if he does, get Xavier Leggette going, man. The Panthers have a bona fide number 1 in Tedero McMillan. He is a dude, 8th in the NFL right now in receiving yardage heading into Thursday Night Football was played. I didn't look at the stats again, but I'm guessing he's probably still 8th in the NFL. Hunter Renfrow had 2 touchdown catches last week, and so far is holding up physically, which was a concern that Dave Canales had, that and just the overall consistency when they decided to release him a couple of weeks ago. And then, of course, he was signed back once Jalen Coker went on IR with that quad injury. JT Sanders, he's been heavily involved in the pass game, including last Sunday where he had 7 receptions. And Bryce Young is coming off of a career high in passing yards and one of his best games of his career when you just look at EPA per play and EPA per drop back. So when your quarterback is coming off of a really solid half and really nice numbers he put up there, minus the turnovers, of course, you have a number one, finally, McMillan. You have Renfrow looking good and JT Sanders being a part of that pass game. You have a situation where Leggette doesn't have to be the guy. He just has to play his role, do his 111th. So can they find a way to get him opportunities? And Dave said opportunities. They just really have not been there for him. They want to get those to him. They tried to manufacture a couple last week on that one drive with the sweep and then that throw out to the flat right after that. And it didn't work out. Didn't result in any positive plays. He had a 0% success rate last week. So if he does play on Sunday, we'll talk more about that momentarily with the injury report. They got to find a way to get him going with the home crowd there. Would hate for XL to get booed. I know a lot of Panther fans are out on him. Great question to why you don't bench him in this situation when he has not played well. He's been one of the worst, if not the worst starting receiver in the NFL through 2 weeks of the season. And I put out those numbers earlier this week. It's a guy that they believe in. He's somebody that it's not like the quarterback where he's going to tank the offense, but if you can bench a quarterback after 2 games, why can you not bench a wide receiver who's underperforming after 2 games and put Bryson Tremaine or maybe David Moore in that situation instead? But if he does play, and if he's available, of course, he's going to start and play the same amount of snaps he would have, whether he was healthy or not. They got to find a way to get Xavier Leggette going. So get him going, go out there, find a way to slow down the Falcons pass rush, and then just get off to a good start. Score a touchdown in the first quarter. It doesn't have to be on the opening drive. Just show up for the start of the game and don't go out there, go 3 and out, turn it over, and have all the boo birds raining down there at Bank of America Stadium on Sunday. Those are my 3 keys to victory, and we'll go over those keys on Tuesday as we review how the Panthers did every single week. Injury report, Pat Jones, he's out this week. Turk Wharton also going to be out for another week, and then Xavier Leggette is questionable. We'll talk about the impacts of all 3 of those guys here in just a moment on Locked On Panthers. It's almost the weekend. Time to look back and crown this week's MVP on Who Delivered, powered by DoorDash. Just like you can win every Saturday with DoorDash Streaks, saving more every time you order. These players delivered when it mattered most. Let's break it down. For the Panthers, Hunter Renfrow delivered in a big way. Renfrow was a key part of the Panthers' comeback attempt as he got 2 touchdowns late in the second half to give the Panthers a chance to have a historic comeback there in the desert against Arizona that came up just short. When the pressure was on, Hunter came through. No hesitation, no delay. And if you've been watching week after week, this performance was not a fluke. Hunter Renfrow is back. And just like Hunter Renfrow delivered for the Panthers, DoorDash delivers your Saturdays with DoorDash Streaks. You save every Saturday you order, stack it up all season, and you could save up to $250, including $100 in DoorDash credits. Order this Saturday. Keep the streak alive. Fuel your game day only with DoorDash. Terms apply. Promo period through November 18th. The NFL season is here, and FanDuel is making sure you're ready for kickoff with a can't-miss offer. Right now, new customers can bet just $5, and if your bet wins, you'll get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. I love using FanDuel because it fits however you like to bet. Player props, building the same game parlay, or even jumping in live as the action unfolds. It makes every game more exciting. Whether you're watching your team or just keeping an eye on your fantasy lineup, it's quick, easy, and the best way to add a little bit more energy to your Sundays, to your Mondays, to your Thursdays, and really every single day of the week with NFL, college, and all the sports going on. So are you ready to play? Download the FanDuel app now by visiting FanDuel.com to get started. That's FanDuel.com to place your first $5 bet. The injury report is out ahead of the Carolina Panthers week 3 home opener against the Atlanta Falcons on Sunday. A couple of guys up there that have no game designation. Bryson Tremaine, the wide receiver, has a quadricep injury, but he is full participant throughout the week. Looked fine in the locker room and out at practice when I was out there on Wednesday and today on Friday. Hunter Renfrow, he had rest. He was limited on Wednesday, but he's good to go. No game status. JC Horn also had rest on Wednesday, was limited there. He's fine. Bobby Brown III, he had a knee injury where he did not practice on Thursday, was limited on Friday, but he is also good to go. Trevon Merrigan, illness, did not practice on Thursday, full participant today on Friday. Rico Dowdle, they added him to the injury report on Friday with a knee injury, limited participant. Again, no game status, so he will play. And then Ashawn Robinson also got a vet day on Friday as he did not practice, and he's good to go. Only 3 players on the injury report with game designations. Pat Jones is second, did not practice all week with a hamstring injury, so he will be out. Turk Wharton, we already knew this. He's going to be out for 2 of the next 4 weeks. So last week, this week, and then possibly the next 2 games, he could be out again with that hamstring injury suffered there against Jacksonville in week 1. And then Xavier Leggette, dealing with a hamstring, was limited all week long, and he is pushing to play. We'll start off, though, with Pat Jones. With him being out, that means big opportunity for the 2 rookies, Nick Scorton and Princely Umanmi-Ellen. Dave Canales told us on Friday afternoon to expect to see Nick Scorton primarily out there on 1st and 2nd down, and then Princely Umanmi-Ellen out there on 3rd down. And that's not really a surprise. Even when these guys were drafted, the thought was that Scorton would be somebody who could really help them in those run-stopping downs, and also as a pass rusher, be a more overall, all-around edge rusher earlier on in his career, where Umanmi-Ellen would really shine on 3rd down. So that appears to be the plan. DJ Johnson going to get opportunities. Thomas Incoom as well will get a lot of opportunities potentially. Maybe not a lot, but he'll get opportunities as well to rotate in there at that outside linebacker spot. DJ Wonnum, he's good to go as the vet there on the opposite side, but it'll be Wonnum and then Scorton starting that game, and you'll see some rotations there from DJ Johnson and from Princely Umanmi-Ellen, primarily Umanmi-Ellen playing there on 3rd down, Scorton on 1st and 2nd down. Xavier Leggette, the hamstring, had him limited throughout the week, as I mentioned earlier, and it's one of those things where Dave told us he's been pushing all week to play. And I can only imagine because of how he's gotten off to start the season. And it's not just that. He wants to play because, hell, he's a football player. What you want to do is play on Sundays. You work your ass off all week to get an opportunity to go out there, get a jersey, and strap it on in front of the home fans, visiting fans on Sundays. Like, that's what you want to do. But you have to imagine there's even more incentive because of just how poorly he's gotten off to a start here in 2025. Now, a lot of people, myself included, are raising eyebrows and wondering, how much longer are the Panthers going to sit here and be patient with him? Now it's the 2nd year. He's 2 games into his 2nd season in the NFL. Was banged up last year with the wrist and with the ankle, or the foot rather, and had some issues. Had a full off season, looked good, solid, and then has come in and has not played up to the standard that you were expecting to see out of Xavier Leggette. So he clearly just wants to play because he loves playing football, but also wants to play, I'm sure, because he wants to get out there and show me and you and everybody that, yeah, I got it, y'all. Like, it didn't work out first 2 weeks, but I can get this thing done. But Dave is really about just wanting to make sure he's physically there. Now, there is a good argument, though, because we talked about potentially benching Xavier Leggette, whether he should be benched earlier on this week on the mailbag. I got plenty of questions about that. It could be a good thing if he's not able to play, just to give him a mental reset, if we're being honest here. Because, again, like last year, Bryce Young got benched after 2 games, and he was awful. Now, it's a lot different because the quarterback, he might be doing his 111th, but if the quarterback is bad, like, that's just going to tank everything for the offense. He's turning the ball over. He's not getting the ball out to the playmakers. Adam Thielen's freaking the hell out. Of course, Deontay Johnson's not happy. Bad situation all around. So that was something where I felt like they needed to have Bryce out there to play through it, because going to Andy Dalton didn't really do anything for them long-term, if that was going to be them done with Bryce Young. And we still do not know to this day when Bryce Young was going to go back in the game. If Andy Dalton had not gotten that car accident and hurt his thumb, we still don't know when it would have happened, but it happened. And fortunately, Bryce came out there, played well, and showed what he needed to show them to be the quarterback again this season. Tough first 6 quarters, but the last 2, looking like the Bryce that we saw in the second half of last year. But they could sit Bryce down. And again, far overreaching, or far more reaching, I don't even know what I'm trying to say. It's a way bigger of a deal, the quarterback not playing well, than a receiver, especially when you have McMillan balling out. You have Renfro getting 2 touchdowns last week. Like, Leggette's not killing the offense, but he's killing a lot of you by just watching how poorly he's performing. And it's the loaves. It's like walking back in there when you need to be running. It's not getting your foot down. It's not blocking. It's just inexcusable kind of things, to where, how do you put a guy back out there on the field? And he's not ending out the game on the field. Instead, it's Bryson Tremaine, who I would assume would take over that spot if XL is not able to play on Sunday. So it could be a good thing just to get him a mental reset, to sit back, to watch the game, and then come back next week on the road against New England and get back out there. Like, that could be a good enough thing. Much like with Bryce Young, the mysterious ankle injury that he had a couple of years ago as a rookie, where he missed a game against Seattle. It's all right. Let's give Bryce a little break for a week and then he can come back the next week. Now, it did not really do anything for Bryce and for the Panthers that season, aside from a couple of games and a couple, like 2-3 games. That's a couple. Well, I guess two's a couple, but we'll see what happens here. My guess is he would play, but I don't think it'd be the worst thing in the world just for him. Just take a step back and watch if he's not able to play. And then, of course, Robert Hunt and Austin Corbett, they are on injured reserve. Hunt going to be done for the season. Corbett could be back in maybe 6 to 8 weeks, just based off of some of the reporting I've seen out there as far as the grade 3 MCL sprain goes. But Cade May stepping in at center for Corbett, and then Chandler Zavala stepping in at right guard in place of Hunt. The Panthers did sign another center off of the Ravens practice squad, Nick Simak, Michigan State guy. Go green, go white, I guess. So that is the injury report and update there as Panthers prepare for their home opener on Sunday against Atlanta, which is not a must-win, but it's you probably need to win this game to get things on track kind of situation. We'll talk more about that here in just a moment. This episode is brought to you by Square. Your favorite neighborhood spots run on Square. There are certain businesses that truly make the neighborhood feel like home, whether it's the local sports bar packed on game days, the coffee shop that knows your order by heart, or the corner deli that's been serving your community for decades. These are the places that bring people together. When neighborhood businesses thrive, the whole neighborhood thrives. Bird Pizzeria, one of my favorite pizza spots in Charlotte, located in between Uptown and Villa Heights, is a local business that uses Square. Spending money there doesn't just support the business, it supports the people behind it and the community around it. Local spots like Bird are what make the neighborhood feel like home, and so many of them run on Square. Square is a proud partner of more than 4 million neighborhood businesses around the world. You can go to square.com/go/lockedonnfl to learn more. But before you do, go support your favorite neighborhood spot. You'll be happy you did. Square, see you in the neighborhood. I guess I'm going to go full Bob Costas here when talking about this game on Sunday. It's not a must win. Now, Bob Costas never really believed in destiny, because if it's destiny, it's predetermined. So you don't control your own destiny, because it's one of those things where, yes, you can control whether you're going to make the playoffs, but it's not destiny. He never loved that. So I'm kind of going Bob Costas here by saying it's not a must win. If they win, if they lose, if they draw, there's still 14 more games to go. And I would think that last season is a great illustration of it's a long season. It's a week-to-week league. I got reminded of that after 2 weeks in. They bench Bryce, and he goes out there, lights up the Raiders. I'm like, it's over. It's over. There's no way you put Bryce Young back in this offense. And again, we have no idea when Bryce is going in. But Andy Dalton got hurt. Bryce came in. Wasn't all that great against Denver, but you saw a little bit of improvement. Played well against New Orleans, against the Giants. And then the rest is history. We're right here having this conversation going into this week 3 matchup against the Atlanta Falcons. But I do not think, of course, going 0-3 to start the season will be a great thing. Had a conversation with somebody at practice today, and they're like, nothing materially changes for this team if they win this game or if they lose this game. Because, again, there are 14 more games. Now, that may be the case with the team, but I think with the fan base, a lot changes. I've already had people come up to me just here on Twitter. I guess that didn't come up to me, but hit me up on social media at Julian Council and over on Twitter and Blue Sky, where, again, you guys can get your weekly Wednesday mailbag questions to me after the game on Sunday afternoon. But they've hit me up and been like, yeah, if the Panthers lose this game, I'm out. Like, they said they'll still listen and watch the show, but they're out on watching the game. Now, that's probably a fib, because if you're not going to watch the game, I don't even know if you're really going to want to tune in to listen to me. And I appreciate it. If you don't want to watch, go ahead. Like I tell you, when it gets the farmer's market season, when I go out, say the team's not going to do anything that's going to really make you happy, if you're going to be really that upset about it, go to the farmer's market, go do anything else. Even when that happens, I still tell you, come listen and watch the show, support your guy who has no choice but to sit here and do it. Not out of the goodness of my heart. I'm getting paid to do it. I'm not doing this for free, of course. That would be insane to talk about the Panthers on a daily basis for free, to do any podcast about this team and not make any money off of that. For the love of the game, I suppose, but couldn't be me. But yeah, man, like, they got to win this game. Not because, okay, the season's over. They do. Like, it's not. Season's not over. And we already know the percentages of when you start 0-2, you start 0-3, playoffs and all that. Like, that really should not be the focus. And of course, I'm guilty for giving you those numbers the last couple of weeks, but this is the part of the season where, like, you would think they'd be able to win some games. It's Jacksonville. I think Arizona's fine. Atlanta, that's a winnable game. New England, winnable. The Dolphins look like a mess. The Cowboys, defensively, not good. The Jets, my God. But then it's like Buffalo and Green Bay. I mean, I shudder to think what that Bills game in Charlotte will look like if the Panthers start off 0-3. And then just knowing their road record under Canales and all these previous coaches over the last 5 years, that New England game ain't a must, not a clear game you're going to win. Miami, you feel like you should win that game. And Dallas, who knows? But if this is like a 1-5, 2-5 team or whatever it may be by the time Buffalo comes to town, it's going to be like 80% Bills fans. And I don't even feel like that's being generous. And it's already going to be bad as is. I just do not want to even think about what that will look like if it comes to that. Now, the Panthers actually in recent years, when they have started off 0-2, this is the 4th straight season they have done so, but this has been a trend that's gone back to that 2019 season. Last year, Ron Rivera was here as the Panthers head coach. And after that loss on Thursday Night Football, where Cam surprisingly didn't run it because he had the foot injury, and it was Christian McCaffrey just missed it by a centimeter that first down, and then they were 0-2 losing to Tampa. There was a lot of people who were like, oh man, season's over, but they bounced back in a big way the next week. Kyle Allen, remember him? The franchise, allegedly, that's people were telling me. Like, probably the worst fall of my life. Of course, I'm exaggerating, I'm joking, but like all these people when I was working at FNZ calling in, being like, oh yeah, Kyle Allen, he's a franchise, man. Idiots. Respectfully, of course. Kyle Allen threw 4 touchdowns in the desert against Arizona, a team Carolina has dominated up until last week. But like he came out there, looked great. Fan base is happy again. They won 4 straight games. They got the season back on track until things went off the rails later on. But then in 2020, got off to an 0-2 start, found a way to win on the road. Yes, pandemic against the Chargers. And, okay, got things rolling a little bit. Won 3 straight. 2022, held off the Saints at home. Now, it didn't get off to where they kept winning games. They lost 3 straight after that. Ron Rivera was, or Ron, not Ron Rivera. Sorry, Ron. Matt Rule, rather, was fired. But they were able to bounce back in week 3 at home against a divisional opponent. And then, of course, last year, Andy Dalton set the world on fire in Las Vegas. So they have found a way more often than not in the recent years when they've started off 0-2 to bounce back. So they need another one of those bounce backs again. Those seasons did not end in contention for a playoff spot or a division outside of 2022. Once Wilkes took over and went to run the damn ball, and the defense looking pretty good, but they can find a way to bounce back. And if they can, it may only be 1 week, but again, next week, winnable game against New England. And if you get to 2-2, you're back home against Miami. You feel pretty good about getting 3-2. And in Dallas, could be a toss-up there. You lose it, it's 3-3. The Jets, that feels like a game you can win. You can be 4-3 when Buffalo comes to town. And if you're 4-4, you're 500, 8 games into this thing, who's to say there's still not an opportunity for the Panthers to, be closer to the goals and expectations a lot of people had for this team outside the playoffs, getting to 7, getting 8, 9 wins. So, yeah, it's not a must win. It certainly is like you probably need to win this one to reach those win totals people have bet on and for fan base to really not check out. So I think they got a chance to bounce back. I think this team's better than what they've shown. I thought they would play better against Arizona. Now, it took until the second half to do so. And yeah, it was a lot of prevent defense. I just think that good opportunity for them to bounce back against Atlanta. And even with all the injuries going on, let's see how that plays out. Excited to be out there at the game on Sunday for the home opener against the Atlanta Falcons. But that's going to wrap up this edition of the Locked On Panthers podcast, part of Locked On Podcast Network, hosted by Julian Council. Again, y'all subscribe or follow the show free over here on YouTube or wherever you listen to your favorite podcast, and hit me up over on Twitter and Blue Sky at Julian Council to get those weekly Wednesday mailbag questions into me right after the game all the way until about Tuesday afternoon. Get those questions into me, and then I'll get those answered and out to you on Wednesday. But in the meantime, be safe, be happy, be whole as always. Keep pounding, and I'll be back with y'all live here on YouTube about an hour or so after the game. I'll be at the stadium in the press box. You're going to go down to Dave Canales' press conference, go to the open locker room. Then I'll come back upstairs, and I'll be live with y'all on YouTube. So probably going to be around 5:30-ish when I'm going to be live. So stay tuned for all of that here live on YouTube. And I'll talk to y'all then on Sunday following the Carolina Panthers Week 3 matchup against the Atlanta Falcons.